Good day po sa inyong lahat dyan. I am Lavin po from Cebu's Veld Memorial College student, second year college from Bachelor of Science and Criminology. Since online naman po, gagawa po ako ng video base sa aking natutunan at kung meron man po kayong suggestions, corrections, objections, just comment down. Woo! I know guys that the word criminal law is common to hear, but this is just a refreshment and additional for you. And let me just tackle it, if it is okay to you. So now, what is a public law? Public law, it refers to the part of the law that governs the relationship between the individuals and the government, not private companies, and is about the exercise of power and the right by public authorities, including those local authorities or government departments, such as the Home Office. And there are many branches of public law. So what are those branches of public law? First one here is constitutional, administrative law, tax law, procedural law, commercial law, political law, and one of here is the criminal law. Is our topic today. So, what is the word criminal law? Criminal law, it is a branch of public law which defines crime, treats of their nature, and provide for their punishment. And the question is, how are we able to identify to that law is a criminal law? So there are three things to remember or consider. And based on that definition, dapat daw that law is define a crime. Pangalawa po, traits of their nature. Define how this act will be committed or how the element of this so that this act become punishable. Pangatlo po, provides punishment to that act, yung ginawa nila na krimen. Okay, listen here. The very focus of criminal law is discussing a crime. So, what is a crime? A crime, it is an act omitted or committed in violations of criminal law, forbidding and commanding it. So, crime in a general terms, it refers to those acts which are punishable by criminal law. And based in that definitions of crime will be committed into different ways. It can be committed by means of actions. It can be committed by means of omissions. So what's the differences of action and omission? Socially, the term action means that there must be an overt bodily. So what is the meaning of overt? Overt, it can be seen or observed. And action nga so we are doing or performing it. So that is an action. And when we say omission, that means opposite of action or inaction, doing nothing. So in other words po, pwedeng makasala ang tao na walang ginagawa. But remember that most crime are committed by means of action. However, guys, there are some commission of the revised penal code that penalizes omission and defines such omissions as a crime. So we have only three examples of omissions. First one is misprision of treason. Ibig sabihin, if there is a conspiracy against the government, if a person is aware that somebody or a Filipino citizen is conspiring each other to commit the crime of treason and the other person who is aware that there was a conspiracy that transpired among these people and he fails to report to the proper judicial authorities, then that person can be charged for doing nothing. So he or she can be charged by misprision of treason. The second omission is abandoning of minors, like a child being knowingly left behind by their parents, not able to take the responsibilities as a parent, no proper parental care of guardianship. And let's get to the third omission, abandoning a wounded or dying person or in uninhabited place. Now, if you could see a person is about to die and you are only who possibly help them, but you are doing nothing, you are not help. So in other words, you are failure to help or neglect them. And listen carefully. Crime can be also classified according to the law that punishes it. And what are those legal classification of crime? First, we have felony. Second, offense. Third, misdemeanor. And those in violations of RPC or Revised Penal Code is called felonies. And a crime that is punishable by special laws is called offense. So what are those special laws? It refers to those laws that enacted by Congress or to those acts in violations of certain Republic Act. So ang tanong, may pagkapareho ba ang krimen sa felony at offense? Wala. Kasi yung offense, certain crime nga eh. Kumbaga, kung anong crime sa felony, hindi makikita sa offense kasi yung offense, ano lang, parang pahabol na crime. Like cybercrime, offense yun. Yun kasi dati, hindi uso yung computer. At iba naman dito sa misdemeanor. Kasi yung misdemeanor is a minor offense that violations of municipal or city ordinance or tinatawag na infractions of ordinance. So anong example na maririnig natin dyan? Halimbawa, bawal magtapon ng basura to that particular place. Pero nagtapon ka pa rin. And simple assault, petty theft, yung disorderly conduct, at iba pa yung mga minor offense lang. Advice ko lang sa student na gaya ko, read lang and study. Kung pagod, pahinga lang, matulog. Kagaya na sa RPC, may book 1, book 2. Sa book 1, may 1 to 113 articles. Yung book 2 naman, nasa 114 to 367 articles. So, ang haba yun Take note also that a crime can also be classified to as mala in se and mala prohibita. Mala in se in plural, malum in se in singular. It is a Latin phrase, means crime which are evil in itself. Inherently evil means those crimes even before it is already considered as a crime or against the law. Gaya ng pagpatay or murder, panggagahasa, robbery, theft, ganun. And it happens as of now or even in the future. That's why RPC or Revised Penal Code is one of our source of criminal law. Kahit old book yun. However guys, there are certain acts that these acts are not punishable before. But as the time passes by, these certain act has been regulated by the government and the government imposes penalty on punishment on that particular act and what we called mala prohibita or malum prohibitum. So in short, mala prohibita, these acts are not punishable before, but it has now become punishable. Why kaya? Because it is prohibited by our government. Example, gambling, illegal logging, illegal fishing. So hindi yan punishable before. But we consider that the most crime is in mala in se. Yung mala in se, pareho lang yun sa felony. Dahil punishable under the Revised Penal Code. While mala prohibita, pareho sa offense, punishable by special laws. So don't hesitate or confuse that words. So again, let's cite an example of those mala in se and mala prohibita. Mala in se includes rape, murder, robbery, theft, adultery, and many more. Example of mala prohibita like illegal logging, illegal fishing, gambling, illegal use of public funds, speeding, public intoxication, illegal possession of firearms, and many more. So now, let's proceed to the sources of criminal laws. The Revised Penal Code, Act Number 3815 and its amendments, the Special Penal Laws that passed by the Philippine Commission, the Philippine Assembly, the Philippine Legislature, the National Assembly, the Congress of the Philippines, and the Batasang Pambansa. Lastly, the Penal Presidential Decrees during the martial law. And don't worry guys, as the time passing by, unti-unti na ring dumami ang mga sources natin. And now we're done talking about the Congress, that they are responsible of enacting laws. And we can still recall our government has 3 branches. And let me ask you, have you still remember the 3 branches of government? Wow, good to hear that. Yes, it is legislative branch, executive branch, judicial branch. Again, let's mention the legislative branch, meaning the law-making body. In other words, this is a branch of government having the power to make laws, responsible for creating laws, and pass laws. But it can also declare war, create an annual budget for the government. A legislative branch also is vested in the 2-chamber Congress of the Philippines. First chamber is the Senate, the second is the House of Representatives. The Senate is the upper chamber that is located in Pasay, while the House of Representatives is the lower chamber located in Quezon City. And if you ask me, who is the current president of the Senate? And if you ask me, who is the current president of the state? And if you mind to ask who is the current president of the Senate, and that is Vicente Tito C. Soto III. The senator who is the presiding officer and the highest ranking official of the Senate of the Philippines. And we can say that senators are the 3rd highest and the most powerful official in the government of the Philippines. He is elected by the entire body to be their leader. The Senate President also is the second in line in succession of the presidency, behind the Vice President of the Philippines. And that's the President of the Senate. And how about the current Speaker of the House of the Representatives? The current is Lord Alan Velasco. And again, what are the 2 chambers Congress of the Philippines? Wow, that's correct. The Senate and the House of Representatives. In addition, the legislative power consisting of 2. That is national government and the local government. The Senate and the House of the Representatives is under the national government. And how about the Bangsamoro Parliament? Sangguniang Panlalawigan, Sangguniang Panglungsod, Sangguniang Bayan, Sangguniang Barangay. And that is under the local government. And now let's move on to the second branches of the government. We have the executive branch, meaning the law enforcing body. So don't be confused that if the legislative branch, meaning the law-making body, the executive law enforcing body, that is responsible for enforcing the law of the land. Executive branch is headed by President, who functions as both head of the state and the head of the government. The President also is a Commander-in-Chief and the Armed Forces of the Philippines with a term of 6 years. And how about the government? No, not the government, but the Vice President. Well, the Vice President is the second highest official who's the first in line to succession should be the President resign, be impeached, or die in office. Then let me ask you, who is the current President in our country? Yeah, you're right. He is President Rodrigo Duterte. Woo! The executive leadership is also consisting of 2 government, the local and national. President, Vice President, Cabinet Secretaries, those are under of national government. The regional chief minister, provincial governor, provincial vice governor, city municipal mayor, city municipal vice mayor, barangay chairman, those are under of local government. And that is executive branch. Again, the legislative branch, it is the law-making body. The executive branch, the law enforcing body. The judicial branch, yes, the law interpreting body. In additional, the judicial power is vested in the Supreme Court of the Philippines and the lower courts established by law. The Supreme Court, which has a Chief Justice as its head and 14 associate justices, occupies the highest tier of the judiciary. And you know what? The justices serve until the age of 70. The justices are appointed by the President on the recommendation of the Judicial and Bar Council of the Philippines. The sitting Chief Justice is Alexander Yusmondo. The 27th serve in that position. And let's go to the other types of the court of varying jurisdiction around the archipelago. There are 3. 1. The lower collegiate court. 2. Regular court. 3. Sharia court. The Court of Appeals, Court of Tax Appeals, Sandigan Bayan, those are belongs to lower collegiate courts. How about the regional trial courts? This belongs to regular courts. And there are 4 levels of courts: the Metropolitan Trial Courts, Municipal Trial Courts, Municipal Trial Courts in cities, Municipal Circuit Trial Courts, that is regular courts. How about the Sharia District Courts, Sharia Circuit Courts? Those are belongs to Sharia courts. And let's take a breath. But let me ask you, what are those 3 branches of the government? Wow, you're right. That is legislative branch, executive branch, and judicial branch. So now let's move on to the 4 basic limitations of lawmaking body. Number 1, it must be general in application. What does it mean? It means po that the law must be applied equally and must not be arbitrary or aimed at specific individual or based on individual discretion rather than a fair application of the law. Number 2, the law must not be an ex post facto law. So, it should not be given a retroactive effect. So, in other words, the applicability of our criminal law is to be applied proactively, not retroactively. So, paabante ang applicability of the law. Hindi po pwede na ang bagong batas or new law will cover acts that has been previously committed. Our law kasi, as far as its prospectivity is concerned, and it will be effective from the date of its effectivity onwards. And the only exception of that principle is that the only time that the law will be applied retroactively is when the new law is favorable to the abuse. So let's cite an example for ex post facto law. On February 14, 2022, you are driving na may nakaangkas o naka-backride na jowa mo in case. Woo! At dahil walang bawal na batas that time, so that's legal. Woo! At comfortable kayong bumiyahe. So again, pag February 14, 2022 yun. Ngunit, pag March 1, 2022, the law was passed by Congress, which required a barrier for all riders And according to that law, since February 14, 2022 daw, will be liable also sa hindi pagsunod dito na batas. So I think it's not a joke but it's funny for me. So clearly, paatras yung application ng law. You're innocent that time to do that action kasi wala pang batas that time na nagbabawal para sa mga umaangkas. But later on, may batas na. So ikaw, innocente that time, nadamay pa and you'll be liable. So that's what we call ex post facto law. Woo! At tatanungin ko kayo, kung paabanti ba yung batas, aamin ka ba na ginagawa mo iyon? Whatever. Basta yun lang yung tandaan nyo ha. Hindi paabanti yung batas. So now let's go to the third limitation. The law must not be a bail attainder. So what's the meaning of that? Meaning, it cannot provide punishment without judicial proceedings. Yes, it is. Because according to the Article 3, 1987 Philippine Constitution, that no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, and property without a due process of law. That means, before siya makulong, may trial muna. Kasi kung wala, that law must be considered of bail of attainder. Example, like the Congress passed a law which provides for an automatic conviction. So walang trial, convict agad, patayin agad. Ano pang ipunish dyan? So bawal iyon. Again, yan ang tinatawag na bail of attainder. And guys, okay pa ba kayo dyan? Before tayo proceed sa fourth limitation, hinga lang kayo dyan ha. Kaya natin to mga criminology student. So now, the fourth limitation is the law must not impose cruel, unusual, or degrading punishment. So the government prevents from imposing a penalty that is either barbaric or far too severe for that crime committed, just like fails to meet social decency standards such those painful, torturous, degrading, or humiliating. So, it's not that. Hindi po timbang iyon sa kasalanan. So, makikita din natin ito if you could remember sa 8th commandments to the Philippine Constitution. Sinasabi doon na excessive bail should not be required nor excessive fines imposed, not cruel and unusual punishment inflicted. So that's why it's very important, no, as a human, we value fair treatment, our lives, freedom, security, protections, and the right of a person, every person of our country. Because there's no perfect at all times. Di ba guys, no? Pero ingat-ingat din tayo minsan. So again, for basic of limitation of law-making body, it must be general in application. The law must not be an ex post facto law. The third, the law must not be a bail of attainder. Fourth, the law must not impose cruel, unusual, or degrading punishment. So, anong masasabi natin dyan? No person shall be held to answer for a criminal offense without a due process of law.
Thanks for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell below so that you are updated in the next video. Thank you.